turn your mic on, Gretchen. Welcome to the Town Board Workshop and Public Hearing on Thursday, June 12th, 2014. Make a motion to open up the meeting.
I'll second that.
We rise and salute the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have a moment of silence for all our local residents who have passed away and also our brave troops. Emergency exits are to my right behind the town clerk and also the door that you came in. Roll, please.
Councilman Longo?
Here.
Councilwoman Hinselberger?
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Here.
Councilman Perotti?
Here.
And Supervisor Perotti.
Here. I'd like to make a motion to open a public hearing for local law number 1 of 2014, a local law establishing training requirements and attendance requirements for members and alternate members. Second?
I'll second that.
Is there any public comment regarding this law?
No one has signed up for public comment at this time, so if somebody would like.
Good evening, Cheryl Morse, P.O. Box 645, Amenia. I think this is a wonderful idea. Having worked up at the Department of State and since 2008, I've often provided members of the board here, planning board, and other individuals with information from the various agencies. And we have tremendous resources, but I think they're underutilized at the Department of State, Division of Local Government, and other agencies up in Albany. And if you don't know how to locate and search the publications on the websites, it can be very daunting because they're not all in one place, and depending upon what you're looking to do, they could be at the comptroller's office, they could be with the Department of State in the different divisions and whatnot. And I think it would be great, and it would also eliminate, I guess, errors in how things are being done procedurally and with policies and that kind of thing. So I think it's a really good idea that you're going to do this. So thank you.
Is there any other comment? Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
And return to regular meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Resolution of adoption by the Town Board of the Town of Amenia of Local Law Number 1 of 2014. Whereas a resolution was duly adopted on May 22nd, 2014 by the Town Board of the Town of Amenia, hereinafter the Town Board, for a public hearing to be held by said Town Board at Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, at 7:00 p.m. on June 12, 2014, to hear all interested parties on a proposed local law entitled A Local Law Establishing Training Requirements and Attendance Requirements for Members and Alternate Members, if any, of the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Town of New York. Whereas the notice of said public hearing was duly advertised in the Millerton News, the official newspaper, the Town of Amenia,
In the Millerton News on June 5th.
June 5th, 2014, and posted on the town clerk's sideboard in
May
the town hall
27th.
on May 27, 2014. Whereas said public hearing was duly held at the town hall at 7 p.m. at June 12, 2014, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf of or in opposition to said proposed local law or any part thereof, whereas pursuant to Part 617 of the implementing regulations pertaining to Article 8 State Environmental Quality Review Act, it has been determined by the town board that adoption of the proposed local law does not constitute an action as defined and could be considered without further regard to seeker. Whereas the town board, after due deliberation, finds it in the best interest of the town of Amenia to adopt said law, local law. Now therefore, the town board hereby adopts said local law as local law number 1 of 2014, entitled A Local Law Establishing Training Requirements and Attendance Requirements for Members and Alternate Members, if any, of the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals of the town of Amenia, a copy of which is attached hereto and made a part hereof, and the town clerk shall be, and she hereby is directed to enter said local law in the minutes of this meeting, and to enter said local law in the local law book of the town, and to give due notice of the adoption of said local law to, and to file said local law with the Secretary of State. Foregoing resolution was voted upon with all women and councilmen voting as follows. And I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Supervisor Perotti,
Yes.
Councilman Doyle,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger,
No.
Councilman Perotti,
Yes.
Councilman Delango,
Yes.
Okay, is there any public comment?
There is no one signed.
Okay, at this time, our animal control officer is no longer able to do the job because of excessive work demands. So he has tendered his resignation. And I notified the Dutchess County Department of Human Resources, and they sent me the list of the 2 other people that are on the list who meet the qualifications for animal control officer. And I spoke with the first person on the list, which both of these people that are on the list are people that we've already interviewed, Leslie Toth and Andrea Washington. And so based on approval of the town board, I offered Leslie Toth the position. She had a final exam rating of 95. She meets all the qualifications, and she's very excited and eager to take the position of animal control officer. So I would like to make a motion to accept Mark Moore's resignation as animal control officer effective today.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And that said, I'd like to make a motion to hire Leslie Toth at $15 an hour with mileage to the position of animal control officer effective today.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Leslie, would you like to come up to the microphone and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Leslie Toth. I am excited to start working with the town. I don't live here exactly locally, but I've been a Dutchess County resident my whole life, so I was a little disappointed that I didn't get the position originally, but things all work out for a reason, and I'm happy that this worked out in the long run. So looking forward to working with everybody as closely or as far away from each other as possible, however, whoever prefers it. and I think it's going to be a good match. And I thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Town clerk report?
Got a bunch tonight. Good evening. I'd like to report that this month, the town clerk's office has remitted to the town supervisor the local shares of fees collected in the amount of $161. The minutes of May 8th and May 22nd have been circulated to the board. I would like to welcome Nancy Luther to the office. She's filled the open position of clerk. This past Tuesday, Kathy, Nancy, and myself attended an informational meeting with Robert Friedman, who discussed the process of foils. So it's not like I'm holding those girls back to understand the process of foils or at starting to attend the classes. I'd also like to inform everyone that the new forms, including FOIL, dog application and renewals, and the new forms for vital records are created in full. These forms will be available online shortly. At this time, if anybody wishes to request a FOIL, apply for their dog application or renew their dog application, or would like to just make any of those requests for vital records, you're welcome to do so by calling me or emailing me at townclerk@ameniany.gov, and we'll be glad to simply email those new forms to you. Currently, Kathy and I are working on getting additional information made available on that website, and this project has been, well, it's been a year now working on it, and we're glad to see our new website launching soon, so we're hope to have it by the end of this month. So it's going to have some new works on. And I just want to let the board know that the AED replacement items have been ordered. I don't know how the town wants to, if they want to pursue working on ensuring that we're a heart-safe community. But I have spoken with Northern Dutchess paramedics. There are 2 town residents who are CPR instructors for this end of the Route 22 corridor. And if that's something that the town wants to pursue, it was a project that I started back in 2011. If you guys would like to see that move forward, just let me know and I'll work with the team to make it happen. This evening there are several resolutions looking for this evening for resolutions for the special duties of constables at the Amenia Firemen's Carnival. Looking for the approval of a resolution to rescind the open container law and road closures for the Amenia Firemen's Carnival. And we also have 2 transfer fund resolutions. I think everybody should have them all. Would you like to, everybody take turns, I can read one?
Okay.
Okay. Whichever.
What's the resolution number?
This is going to be resolution number 19.
Okay, resolution number 19, whereas the town of Amenia has adopted local law number 3 of 2007, establishing the powers and duties of the town constables, and whereas section 10-7 of the law authorizes the town board to adopt a resolution granting special duties to the town constables upon a determination that assignment of those special duties is appropriate and that it is consistent with the scope of the town constable's powers and duties as peace officers, and whereas the annual Amenia Firemen's Carnival is scheduled to be conducted in the town of Amenia from July 2nd, 2014 through July 6th, 2014, and whereas the town board concludes that it would be in the best interest of the town of Amenia and of the public health and welfare of the town constables to assist in parking and traffic control for this event, and to generally patrol the carnival and parade grounds and surrounding area during the event. And whereas the Amenia Fire Company has agreed to reimburse the town for the costs associated with the town constables providing these services. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Amenia, the Amenia Town Board hereby grants the town constables the special duties enumerated in sections 10-7, C, D, E, F, and G of
the Town of Amenia Town Code during the Amenia Firemen's Carnival from July 2nd, 2014 through July 6th, 2014, including the period of time prior to and after the event necessary to patrol the area for safety and to assist in controlling and directing the parking and traffic generated by this event. And it is further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the town constables to carry a firearm as authorized by section 10-6 of the Town of Amenia Town Code while performing the special duties identified in this resolution. And it is further resolved that the Amenia Fire Company shall pay for the costs associated with the town constables providing the services identified in this resolution. Foregoing resolution was voted upon with all councilmen and women and supervisors voting as follows.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Could we discuss this for a minute?
Absolutely.
Well, were you making the motion for this? Then we need to have a second, right?
I make this motion.
Okay, then I'll make the second, I'll second it, and then we can have discussion.
We can have discussion. I mean, I agree with the constables helping out and stuff. I just don't, I'm worried about the liability with the firearms. There's Dutchess County Sheriff's there, there's New York State Police there. Why should the town of Amenia assume the liability with a constable with a firearm? No disrespect to the constable, no disrespect to anybody in the town, but why should we assume, have the liability? There's a chance if something happens, if there's a shooting or something like that, the town of Amenia is open for a huge lawsuit. Dutchess County Sheriffs are there, New York State Police are there. I mean, I just don't know if we should be putting our necks out that far when other people are there. If they were the only ones that were there, I agree with it 100%. I mean, I'm all for...
They're the only ones there throughout except for the day of the convention. And the constable is here who's done it for the last several years, if you'd like to call him up.
Yeah.
Chief Constable, Town of Amenia. It's something that we've always done.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that any duties that we ever do, you have that same chance. The thing with us being there is we hope just our presence will make it not happen. We've been very lucky. We all know the world's kind of crazy nowadays. You can't guarantee anything. Can't guarantee it in the courtroom. Sheriffs and state troopers, they make an appearance. I've been there 4 years now, and I think twice in the last 2 years they've come in and grabbed a hamburger and left. We're our own police force. We are trained the same exact way, except when you come to traffic. We don't patrol in vehicles. We don't patrol, routine traffic stops. But when it comes to hand and everything else, we're trained exact same way.
Yeah, you have your firearms, you have your sidearms when you're here doing court, correct?
Correct.
And
All of my officers have also been trained in active shooter. We've all gone up. Homeland Security and State Preparedness and Readiness Center, along with Louisiana State University, licensed us to be an active shooter along with anti-terrorist task force, just
Chris,
by taking that class.
Again, I'm not trying to discredit you. I'm not trying to discredit the constables or the training that you're taking. That's all great and everything. And again, yes, they do carry the firearms when they're inside the building with the court and stuff like that. Most of the time, there's no other police present. I can understand that. But now we're adding alcohol. We're adding a lot more people. We're adding a lot of that. I'm just worried about the liability. That's my problem. If someone takes your gun and starts shooting people, what happens? The town of Amenia is responsible.
We're trained in weapons retention, so you kind of hope that never happens, but by all means, it can happen anywhere. Like I said, we do traffic duty, we do all the other duties here. It's the same exact thing. Even more so for that right there. it's a safety measure. You don't know what anybody else has. So if you're going to put us out there with no weapon, then what happens if we get shot? You're still liable to something happening at that end, and we can't protect ourselves, nor can we protect anybody else in that facility waiting for a different police agency to come. We do have radios, we do have cell phones, but at this time, unfortunately, sheriffs aren't that well, patrolling in this area. State troopers are, but they're zipping up and down 22. Our lives are first on hand, along with the people that we are trying to protect.
Mike, just to help better clear, because you are one of the newest members, the constables are being hired by the fire department, and they are going to be the main
They're
providers.
not being hired by the fire department. The town is supplying them,
And-
they're
and-
reimbursing us.
And I'll just finish. You
Yeah.
guys also use them for the flood auction. You use them here for your nights here, for when the alcohol is going on at the music hall. There's you're going to be using them for the softball events. So if these are things that the board as a whole is going to look to object, I would then recommend that you contact the fire department, because this is not going to be the first resolution that this year that's going to be presented before you as a request upon the Amenia Fire Company looking for the use of the constables.
Let me weigh in on this. I don't see this any different than the village of Millerton. When Millerton does their carnival or their any type of gathering, utilizing their police force. The constables are essentially our version of our police force. And considering that Governor Cuomo just made a keynote speech about the heroin epidemic that our country and that our state is dealing with at the moment, I think that added police presence is a good thing. Considering the drug issues and the drug problems and the alcohol abuse that has been occurring within our own community. So I see this as a matter of public safety, and I am definitely in favor of our constables having their sidearms. It's a big deterrent.
Well, usually in the past, we're there. Our presence, for the most part, helps out. I think just with us there, last year was the first year there was even close to an issue. We're right in the middle of everything right away, because we patrol the whole time. And we, kind of disbanded probably a 4-man fight that it was going to happen. And, you never do know, but that's why we're there. We're providing the protection for everybody.
I guess with the heroin and stuff getting so bad, I guess we should start looking into a police force maybe.
According to your same town law, we can
it's
do
just,
the same thing.
Again, my theory is I'm looking at the liability side of it. My big worry is if, God forbid, you guys have to use your sidearm. My brother's a state trooper. I have plenty of cops in my family and everything else, and I see what they battle with day to day. And it's like, why? I'm worried about the town, taking the responsibility when we do have the sheriffs and the state police there. If they're not going to patrol it and there's not enough of them there, it's a different story.
We patrol it. They come by. They used to come by more often when there was more people in the area. That hasn't happened in the last little bit. We've been doing this for a long time. There was a short hiatus that the constables stopped doing it, and then probably about 4 years ago they started back up with us again. Same liability. I understand where you're coming from, Mike. The liability falls back on me first off, no matter what, as any officer, and then it's the same as an EMT. As an EMT, you can help somebody get out, something happens wrong, you get covered under Good Samaritan law, I do something happens, they sue the out of me. It's just, I take and my guys take the same thing. They all carry some kind of form of liability insurance, just for that chance if anything does ever happen. And that's something they personally have done. And, you have the town, but you also have something that you try to do for yourself. Because you never do know. And by all means, any of us are doing this for the money. We're doing this for the betterment of our town. Believe me, I'm putting my life in my hands every time I go out. But for you guys, for everybody that's here and everybody that sits in our town. And then the same as an EMT. Well,
I'd rather have somebody there that's prepared to act. Believe it or not, that it is a deterrent. It is a deterrent, and that's something that You know, I tend to be a bit more conservative in my point of view on things as far as gun rights. Being that I do live in New York State, I disagree with a lot of the direction that the state is going when it comes to the right to bear arms. And as far as our law enforcement, we need to support them and we need to provide them with the tools to exercise and keep us safe.
Yeah, we do our training. We do it every year. And like I said, we are trained an active shooter. So by all means, anything that ever happened, we're trained to be the first ones in.
I have to say, Chris, you reminded me that I was actually there when Chris pulled me aside and said that there was a little trouble brewing. I recognized how calmly he handled the situation, very sensibly. You know, you wouldn't have known that he had a fire on it. He did everything, I thought, very well, and keeping everything cool, and just had him settle down and dissipated the thing very well. So I have a lot of confidence in our constables. They appear to have, you know, just a very calming but quiet. They don't, you know, they're just there, and you see them, but you see that they're in, you know, there in case anything gets a little bit crazy. And I think they just did a great job.
Trust my men with my life every day, and every day we're here, and I feel that they're highly trained and highly qualified to do exactly what they need to do if by chance, and hopefully it never happens, if by chance anything has to happen.
We do have insurance, right? I mean, this would cover us if, in fact, there was a
We are covered, yes.
chance.
If you don't need me, I'll sit down. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Roll, please.
We'll start again. Supervisor Prodi?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
I say no to the firearms part.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Prodi?
Yes.
Okay, and then there's a second one for the Amenia Firemen's Carnival. This is to rescind the open container law and grant the authority for the Amenia Fire Company to close Mechanic Street and the appropriate roads for the parade.
It's Resolution 20.
It's going to be resolution number 20. Do you want to read the next one?
I got
Oh,
it.
you got it. Okay.
I'll read the next one. So this is resolution number 20 of 2014, Amenia's Firemen's Carnival. Whereas the Amenia Fire Company has scheduled its annual Firemen's Carnival for July 2nd, 2014 through July 6th, 2014, and whereas the Amenia Fire Company has requested that the town board rescind the open container law and grant authority to the fire company to close Mechanic Street and appropriate town roads for the duration of the parade on July 5th, 2014, and whereas the Amenia Fire Company has requested that the town board authorize the hiring of constable as needed for the parade and/or the carnival, now therefore be it resolved that the town of Amenia hereby rescinds the open container law for the carnival area and approves the grant of authority to the fire company for the appropriate road closures, in addition to authorizing the hiring of constables as needed for the parade and/or the carnival. Be it resolved that this resolution shall become effective immediately, and I so move.
Second.
Supervisor Prodi?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Prodi?
Yes.
Resolution number 21, to authorize the town board to transfer the funds for Connie Mack.
Whereas the town board has the authority to transfer funds when necessary or unanticipated to amend the budget, whereas the town board budget line 73104.1.95 Youth Program CE Connie Mack requires an increase of $237.42 for expenses. And whereas the town board budget line 73104.1.98 Youth Program CE Little League requires a decrease of $237.42. Now therefore be it resolved, the town of Amenia Town Board authorizes a transfer of $237.42 to help pay for the cost of Connie Mack expenses. And those Connie Mack expenses are for the umpires. Can I make that motion?
I'll second it.
Supervisor Prodi?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Do we have are the funds right in this line? Because we didn't get the updated budget numbers, the
We
corrected
have to
ones.
transfer it first. Yes.
Are the funds in the line that we are transferring from?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and will we be getting the updated budget?
Yes.
Great. Yes. Sorry.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes, also.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Councilman Delango?
Yes.
And resolution number 22, to authorize the town board to amend the budget for the Main Street grant.
Whereas the town board has the authority to transfer funds when necessary or unanticipated to amend the budget, whereas the estimated revenue for town budget line 3890.01, state aid, other culture, and recreation Main Street grant should be increased by $113,000, and whereas the appropriation line 71104.1.143, Amenia Park contractual, should also be increased by $113,000. It's further resolved that this resolution shall become effective immediately. This is pretty much a bookkeeping amendment to put the funds for the Main Street grant into the budget.
This was the thing from CEDAR?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I make that motion?
I'll second it.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Did you want us to approve the minutes? Has everybody had a chance to read them? For Thursday, May 8th? You
So
haven't
I
had a chance?
apologize. I do apologize,
What,
yes.
you-
And I
okay.
won't be here in July. Do we have another
Well, we
meeting?
have a meeting on June 26th.
Okay, so if we could put it off till June 26th? Great.
That's fine.
Okay.
Just put a note to remind myself to
Yeah.
re-announce it.
And
Well, then
reread it.
then you'll have tonight's meeting as well, so that's gonna be extra
Okay.
reading.
Okay.
Okay, so that concludes my lengthy report.
Okay, there's no highway department report. Stan will be here at the next meeting. Building department report.
Yeah, I have a couple things with that. The first one is the financial. Town board members, please find May's monthly report for the building department. As building permits go, we have issued 5 new building permits of $1,917.60, along with 1 renewal permit for $175, and a firework permit for $75, which totals $2,167.60. We are continuing with certificate of occupancy searches, and for this month, we did 5 searches, which total $650, and a fire inspection of 1, which totaled $75, for the total month of May of $2,892.60. Sincerely, John Fenton, Code Enforcement Officer. Mr. Fenton also wanted me to read a letter. Dear Board, I would like to remind the Board and the public that there is a protocol to reporting a zoning or building complaint. If a resident has a zoning or building complaint, they must fill out a complaint form. This form can be picked up at the town hall, or it can be sent electronically through the town hall website. The reasons for having the form filled out is to document the resident's concern, document the facts, and have enough information to conduct a proper investigation of the complaint. This requirement is also state mandated. Sincerely, John Fenton. I just want to elaborate a little bit on it. I mean, I understand the paper trail. Someone has a complaint with the building department, zoning, or anything like that. It's easy to pick up the phone and call or stop in the office or something like that, but there's no proof, you know? If you get a form, if you fill it out, or if you send it in with the computer and stuff like that, we have a paper trail. We could say, oh yeah, this has been complained 5 times already. we have to do something about this. But when it's just word of mouth and walking into the office, or even I'm guilty of it myself sometimes, someone will come in and talk to me and they have a complaint that's a valid complaint. Either I forget to mention it or I do mention it in saying. So I'm going to do it myself. If someone complains to me, I'm actually going to fill a form out or do it, over the internet, so I have a record of it. And I urge the other town board members to do the same, so we have a record and it's easier for the department to keep track of things. If you're not computer savvy, stop in. I'll help you fill the form out. It's not that hard. I'll show you once or twice, and you could probably, pick it right up yourselves. So that's really about it on the building report.
Can you give me a copy of that, Mike? Because I don't have that in my
Copy of the
packet.
building report.
Yeah, on the letter.
This is the letter about the zoning.
I don't have it either.
What's that?
I don't have it either, if I could get a copy.
The letter?
The one about the
No,
complaints?
what he read out loud.
Oh,
Yeah.
The one about
the
the
report?
complaints?
Yeah, his report.
That's the one about
Yeah.
the complaints.
And we can make copies after the meeting.
Yeah, you
make
can
sure
make copies
everybody
of
gets it. I don't have it in here. It's gone.
Yeah, just hand it down to Tom.
The other thing relating to code enforcement that we have is the Northwest Farms Ridgecrest and Harlem Valley Sand and Gravel applications to DEC. And Denise was going to needed to reply by June 19th, the town's response to DEC's request to act as the lead agency and for the town's comments or concerns.
I did speak with the DEC representative today, John Petronella, to ask if the town might be able to obtain a brief extension of time to put in a response to DEC. Probably the main reason would be if you would like to, first of all, you have to make the decision on whether you're agreeable to DEC acting as lead agency on it. And I think you have to keep in mind that what this action is applications of Northwest Ridgecrest and Harlem Valley Sand and Gravel to get a modification from DEC to expand their mining operations. The Northwest application involves 5 additional acres. Ridgecrest and Harlem Valley involve, one is 0.7 of an acre, one is 0.8 acre. So, it's a modification of the DEC permit to allow them to go into those additional areas, which is less than 7 acres. The applicants are going to have to come back to the town if DEC grants the modification to then request a modification on the special use permit, also on a modification on the soil mining overlay district, and possibly a variance regarding the infringement into the boundary line setbacks. So at that point, the board would have to do a seeker review on the issues and make a decision on those things. So, right now this is in kind of DEC's realm as far as the modification of the state permits. The board has to make a decision in consenting or not to DEC acting as lead agency on that. I think they probably feel it's within, their domain to do that. I do think that the town should consider whether you want to offer some written comments to DEC for consideration if you have some concerns about the impacts this may have. You could offer those concerns in written form in the response letter to DEC to consider. My feeling is that mining is a pretty technical operation. Lay people don't generally have the knowledge to know what risks or impacts this might entail for the town. There may be some things that you think are obvious, there may be many that are not. This is an expansion, really, of the type of operation they've already been doing on the property for years. So they're not indicating that it's going to be a different type of operation. They indicate they are going to be using the same type of equipment that they have been using. But that said, you know, the town may want to solicit an engineering opinion toward the end at this early stage of just offering some comments to DEC if you have concerns. Obviously, when the applicants come back to the town for the modifications they need on the special use permit and the soil mining overlay district, certainly at that point, you know, you could do your investigation, get additional engineering opinions. So whether you want to get some engineering input at this point to offer the comments to DEC, that's a decision you have to make.
So we have to decide whether we want to allow DEC to be lead agency and authorize Denise to, you know, send a letter to that end. And if anyone has any concerns, you know, to make that part of the letter. Or would you like to authorize her to look for an extension? How does the board feel about that?
The deadline is June 19th for you to respond.
At this point, I did ask Mr. Petronella today whether we would be able to obtain a somewhat brief extension of time. He seemed amenable to that. He, you know, wouldn't say yes or no without having it in writing. So they would want to see how much time you were requesting. I think it would be reasonable to perhaps ask for a 30-day extension if you feel you want to proceed and get some kind of an engineering, you know, opinion on it. You know, I don't know if they'll give you the full 30 days, but I think it's worth asking. And that would, you know, allow you to get the expert opinion. If you want to wait to get that to make your decision on the lead agency issue, you can certainly do that. But, you know, I would not delay because they're not going to sit on this.
Or we can decide to authorize a letter to be sent to them, telling them, you know, giving them lead agency for this.
I think we should just give DEC the lead agency status. You know, there are timetables involved in here from the property owner's perspective too, and I just don't think it would be fair to us to delay things. DEC, they have the experience and the foreknowledge of dealing with any of these type of mining issues. They're established mines, so let them do their due diligence on their end with their experience, and then I think we can come in at the end.
Yeah, and I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, we can go ahead and, you know, allow them to be lead agency, but if anyone, you know, on the board has any comments or concerns, you know, to add to the letter, you know, we could do that, you know, as well.
Has any of our engineers looked at it or anything yet?
No?
No. Now, if...
I mean, they're basically...
Well, we have looked at the parcel that was the Harlem Valley
This
sand and
came
gravel
up,
before.
if I
yes.
remember, when I first was on the board, right? There was
Yes.
trying to do something, and there was something about arrowheads or something like that?
Well, that was the smaller piece that they were hoping to reclaim, but we ultimately decided to wait because the SECRA process is an expensive process for such a small parcel. And so they were going to band it together with a couple of other orphan parcels that made more sense to do the SECRA for all three rather than bringing them in each time and having the expense for each individual one. So we have looked at one. And at the time when the CAC was interested in looking it over for that particular application, several of us went on our own to look at what Ian had proposed, and he did describe a greater game plan at the time. So we looked at the little parcel right on South Amenia Road that ultimately wanted to reclaim, but he needed to do some soil mining to recover the cost. But it's a very modest bank that's an eyesore from the road, and he would be mining that in the process of trying to shape it into a parcel that would ultimately be a better landscape for his ultimate resale or use of the property himself. And he, at the time, had described that by improving these parcels and reclaiming them and improving the boundaries, that he would be using all of the trucking of the materials would be done on his own internal roads. This is helping with keeping the big trucks off of Route 22 and Sin Patch Road, and therefore that meets the criteria that we'd ultimately had hoped to achieve in the comprehensive plan process of keeping the big trucks off of the little roads, because the noise and the impact of the vibration of those trucks destabilize the historic structures and isn't compatible. So we were all in favor at the time of the small parcel being improved. We looked at the maps. We heard Roy Budnick. He came and talked to us about trying to include that in the existing maps, but it wasn't. He said we'd have to create a new, we would have to add that in. And so now he's going through the whole process of these 3 parcels. And I think I've spoken to the CAC and some members, and they feel that this is a good thing for ultimately, and that it'll be the first parcels in Amenia that will actually be reclaimed. And there are small little pieces that, they're 50 cubic yards and 30 cubic yards. We're not talking about a huge amount. We're talking about just enough to reshape the parcels and reclaim it and get the topsoil back in there. I think it's going to look really good ultimately. So
That's great. Yeah, that's wonderful. But you're acting like gravel mining is like a bad thing. Gravel mining is actually not a bad thing. People have, that's basically, how do you think we keep Cascade Mountain Road functional, or any of our other dirt roads functional? So it's great that he's doing this wonderful thing, but we also have to look at, how many other permits that we've kind of looked at and just shied away from. Like, let's take Kent Mining, for instance, and what they wanted to do. We can't pick and choose who we're going to get permission to. As far as the overlay for the gravel mining, I think if we're going to look at the overlay, we should look at maybe possibly making it so we could expand it.
It is possible to expand it. You apply for it just as Kent Mining has applied, and now Ridgecrest and Harlem Valley. There's a process and there's criteria for adding them to the soil mining overlay map. So it's absolutely up to anybody who meets the criteria to go in and apply, and we look at each one carefully for all of the environmental potential, and look at the original master plan and make sure that our zoning and everything is the way it was intended. So you don't just do a carte blanche, but we have looked at carefully. I think we should go with them, DEC as lead agency, and hold off on our comments until the later portion. But at the meantime, the CAC can go back over the newly submitted other 2 parcels and make sure that it fits our goals and objectives and the criteria.
The other thing I wanted to mention to you, I asked Mr. Petronella, he made a site visit last week to look at this, and I asked him what is the reason that they're going back into the areas that have already been reclaimed, and they have reclaimed some substantial areas. And he said the reason is because there are some very steep slopes as a result of the mining, and what they want to do is kind of even out those areas. So there's a benefit in that respect. He also asked the applicant, and there are 3 corporations, but the gentleman who was signing the applications, he asked him what was the plan for the future of the parcels. Did they plan to want to come back and expand again? And he said they indicated that they did not intend to do that. I mean, there's nothing holding them to that, but
this is cleaning up some old business that Ian Holdback has inherited, bits and pieces, and The mines are well-known and pretty much mined out for, except for the
So basically what he wants to
Ridgecrest.
do is complete the reclamation process, which is one thing that is necessary and that we should always be holding people who have gravel mines to that commitment. If you commit to opening up a mine, you should also be committed to the reclamation process. I do agree with that.
Did you want to make a motion that we allow
DEC
DEC to be lead agency?
I mean, what's the pros and cons to it, Denise? I mean, I guess I'm not...
I mean, as I said, I'm not an engineer, and I'm not going to purport to tell you what effects there may be that an engineer is going to be able to tell you. I can just look at the
It still has to
objective.
come back before us. I mean, this is just to make
just
DEC
to
lead
get 'em going.
agency,
Lead
but
agency.
they're still going to have to come back.
Are we giving anything away making DEC lead agency? I mean...
No.
It's going to have to come back to us anyways.
Yeah.
No, they're the ones with the expertise, and DEC is really oversees all soil mining anyway.
That's right.
So
I
I'll
mean, the
make the
town
motion.
would be lead agency when they come back in regard to the modifications, of the special use permit, the soil mining overlay district.
Yeah, the parts that, we're part of, we would be in control of.
Basically, we're saving the money for the engineer, cost of the engineer, and we're allowing one of our businesses to move forward in a reclamation project.
If you want to offer those comments to DEC, well, these are some concerns we have about the expansion, you can certainly do that. But, I'm not an engineer.
I mean, it's going to come back before us anyway. This is just to let them be lead agency until it gets to that point. It isn't like we're not going to have any more input after this point.
So I'll make the motion that we authorize DEC to be lead agency.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, so just so I'm clear, you're consenting to the lead agency.
Yes, we'll
What
be-
do you want to do about comments? Do you want any comments in the response?
Just I guess I need to make a motion to authorize Denise to respond to the DEC, notifying them that we voted to allow them to be lead agency for the 3 entities for Northwest Farms, Ridgecrest, and Harlem Valley Sand and Gravel applications to DEC.
Okay, and I will do that without input, comments from the town at this point.
Yes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
County Legislator Michael Kelsey, would you like to come talk to us? I'm not going to let you sit down.
Michael Kelsey, County Legislator, and I apologize I wasn't here last month. Our legislative schedule was the same day. But we've now pretty much gone through our bond season where we've passed all the bonds that we're going to pass. This month we voted on another highway bridge bond. There were 2 bridges in particular, one in Wappingers, one in Stanford, that were larger bridges but were now weight restricted. And they had down in Wappingers, right by New Hamburg train station, you had oil, Bottini fuel, vehicles going over that, and with the weight restriction they were traveling through the local roads, putting damage on those roads. And up in Stanford you had trucks with using quarry products, that the bridges were in bad shape. So we did pass that bond for $5 million. The other big issue last month and this month was the jail pods, and we voted on them last month, and then this month we approved the contract. So what that means is the pods, and you've heard me speak about them before, will now enter the construction stage, and we expect them to be fully operational by January of next year. That will allow 200 inmates that are currently housed out at other jails to be housed out, or to be housed at the Dutchess County Jail in Poughkeepsie. Third issue I want to bring up is a topic that you've heard me speak about probably 2 years ago, and then I just sent a letter out to supervisors this week, so Victoria should have gotten it or soon will, and that's concerning property installment payments. This was a topic 2 years ago. I was had a local law proposed. I spoke to Supervisors and Mayors Association, and then we decided to sit on it for a while, and I'm now reviving it. What the proposal is right now when people pay their, we're getting the letters coming out now, when people pay their property taxes in the county, they pay it in one lump sum. It's due February 28th, so they pay it May 1st, and if they do not have the full amount, we cannot accept partial payments. They pay the towns, but the towns can't accept it, and an interest is accruing on that whole principal until they have the full amount. Under New York State law, real property law, first-class towns, and that's determined based on population and assessment value, first-class towns can allow taxpayers to pay in installments. Town of Poughkeepsie, Town of Hyde Park, and Town of Wappingers allow residents to pay in 2 or 3 installments, maybe half in March, half in May. Poughkeepsie, I believe, does it all the way through August in 3 payments. And 2 years ago, I represented the town of Stanford, and the Stanford Town Board wanted permission to do installment payments just like the first-class towns. Under New York law, they were not allowed to. The county has to give them permission. And when we looked into it, we found that the county can't just allow one town to do it. If the county acts, every town in the county would have to allow these installment payments. When I presented to the Supervisors and Mayors Association, there were mixed results. Some towns said this would be good. Former Supervisor Bill Flood said this would help people in Amenia. There were other towns that said they thought that it would add an extra burden to the tax collector. The tax collector right now collects in March, but then they'd have to collect a couple more down in several months. So there was mixed feelings. We decided to leave the issue frozen and allow the towns to observe tax cycles, see if this would help people. The idea behind it is if you can't pay the full amount, you're still paying an interest charge, so you're paying more in the long run, but you're not paying an interest on the full amount. If you have half, you can pay half, and then the interest is going to be still accruing, but at a lesser amount. So the letter I sent out this week is asking all the towns to look and see, are there people that this would help? Now, most of us who have mortgages, we pay out of our escrow, so it's not an issue for us. And it shouldn't affect cash flows since most of us do pay out of mortgage. It's primarily, my guess would be the people that are on, have paid off their mortgage, perhaps seniors on a fixed income that maybe in the middle of the winter with their heavy energy bills or whatever might not have that money. Maybe it would benefit them. So I'm asking in the next couple months, Amenia as well as other towns, just ask yourselves, is this something that would help? The county makes the towns whole. So we pay whatever you're supposed to have, and if there's any loss, we take it at the county level. So financially, you're not going to be hurt. It's just, it would be extra responsibility to the tax collector, because it won't just all be in March. It could be May. And what that schedule is going to be, we don't know yet. Poughkeepsie does it in three monthly installments, and I think Hyde Park is 2. If we decide to move forward, we would have to set up a uniform schedule that everybody would follow, and that would require the input, from the towns. Well, would you want it here? Or, so that's really just, should we do it? And if so, how will it look? So that's the topic that we're looking at. Before I move on with a related topic, is there any questions on that? Concerns? Okay. Why I'm bringing it back now, as like I said 2 years ago, and I let it sit for a while, is we got our report in May on our county finances and how we finished last year. And if you remember last year, we had projected a $7.5 million deficit. Our revenues were down, and that's where the energy tax came about in order to plug that hole. Well, when this report came in for how we finished last year, revenues were indeed down $7.5 million, sales tax and mortgage tax. But what wasn't given to us at that time was that we had revenue coming in elsewhere, and there were savings done. So we actually finished last year with a surplus of $5.3 million. And so that's startling because that suggests that the energy tax was never even needed, and yet the numbers were not provided to us. And they weren't provided in December when we were voting on the budget. And the question is did somebody know about that at that time? And if not, you would assume they definitely would have known by March 1st, which is when the energy tax was implemented. And they certainly should have known in the month of March and in April when Albany was being lobbied asking to bail us out. And that money was accepted, $5 million from the state was accepted. And then in April, when we as legislature was voting on repealing it, the question was, do you repeal in June or do you repeal in September? Even at that point, middle of April, we still did not know that we finished with the surplus. So now I say we, the legislature. So the budget office, which is an executive branch, was not conveying actual numbers, and only a month later did we find out that yes, we finished with the surplus. Yeah, wow is right.
That's that tax hurt a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting that the county executive can go around and say, play politics with it, but Republicans don't raise taxes on people. Rural Republicans are fiscally conservative, and mandates are mandates, but still, you do right by your taxpayers.
Not even party. I just think, regardless of party, elected officials, we should be conscientious to the people. And that no tax should be done lightly, and it certainly you need to have the right information, which was not provided. So the question remains: how did we finish a surplus? Revenue was down, and so when it was presented to us, that surplus was arrived in several different ways. There were cost savings, such as not filling positions, but the major revenues seemed to come in from one. There was a sale of the recycling plant, which was a small amount. We also sold a health department license that we had, also a small amount. The two big areas that I look at that we brought in money deals with this issue of property tax. People who couldn't pay their property taxes on time and were charged interest, that amount came to $5.8 million last year. So we had a surplus of 5.3. We brought in 5.8 million from people who couldn't pay their property taxes on time. So in a sense, this is where I'm coming from, is we balanced our budget on the shoulders of people struggling with property tax. On top of that, 1.4 million came from foreclosure auctions for people who couldn't even make a late payment. And so you add 1.4, 5.8, there's a lot of money that came in from struggling people paying property taxes. And that's what's reviving me, saying let's bring this topic back up. I don't know if installment payments is the solution. I just came to the town of Washington. Their tax collector is also a town clerk. She said she thinks it would probably help 2 or 3 people in the town. I spoke with the Milan supervisor, called me yesterday, and he's looking as well. I think it's probably only a handful. I don't know if what I'm recommending is really a solution. I'm just seeing a problem that we're bringing in. Not only we charge people taxes, but then the people who can't even pay are getting charged more. So it's just a concern that I'm highlighting.
Well, I did receive your letter, but I gave it to the town clerk so she could do some research for me before I brought it to the board, so I could give all the numbers to the board.
And I only sent it out on Tuesday, so it's probably takes time to digest. And anyway, I'm just while I'm out sharing.
We ingested it really quickly, very quickly tonight.
Oh, thank you.
But for the town of Amenia, I have had several residents ask me if we do partial payments, and unfortunately, we do not at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it could benefit a few. I mean, a majority do come out of their bank payments. Those that are coming in with cash. I think they get their bill, they go straight underneath their mattress, and they come in with cash. I mean, they're ready to pay. It's those that have paid. I did look at the numbers. We have approximately 110 parcels that are being sent out to the county for payment. And of the 4.9 that we're collecting, we only have $490,000 that's left to collect. So, I mean, here at Amenia, we're collecting 88%. And that's about where I stood last year. So anywhere between 85 and 88, 89% is what, my experience has been as to what we collect versus what we set out to the county. I mean, there are some technical questions which is not appropriate for this evening to discuss. I mean, if you want to sit down, I'll discuss the whole tax collection. And I can tell you there are many of the clerks, and we get the circle of emails to add in another responsibility past May 31st, because by June 20th, we're going out to the county closing, you know, I mean, it's a burden on the office to add that additional duty to the clerks and the tax collectors. I mean, some tax collectors are elected and compensated for the job, where there's others that it falls under the title of, and you're not being paid for it. So I think that I would encourage you perhaps to come to a town clerk tax collector meeting maybe in September to get the feel of where we stand and how we feel about the additional responsibilities. If it's something that we can do here to help the community, if you know, if there are residents out there watching, if this is a benefit, something that you want to do, please call me, please email me, and if the majority says yes, Dawn Marie, I want to do, you know, partial payments, and that's an option for me, and it can help my family, and if we're not taking food off your table and this is something we can do, I will support it 110%. There's no question. I mean, I know I'm with that working family, so I understand what we can do to try to help. So I mean, I'm willing to help something in the county if this is something that you're really feeling strong about. We can work together.
And that's the whole point of the letter, writing out, and that's probably a good idea, communicating with the town clerk, since they tend to be the ones that are interfacing at that level.
You know, we're finding a lot of what were state responsibilities are falling onto our laps. And we just do those responsibilities, and we don't come to our boards, and we don't like say, hey, I don't have time to do your minute, I don't have time to do this, and I can't help you. You know, we're assuming these responsibilities. I mean, it's right down to something as simple. Now they're looking for us to sell easy passes. How much more do you need?
Right.
So I mean, I think we can work something.
Sure, and that's similar to what
dialogue.
The town clerk in Washington said. The same thing is, you know, keep us in the loop, and especially on the schedule. And what you just said about, you know, maybe, you know, if you have a deadline in June, then if we do it, maybe we make it May, and not like Poughkeepsie does August. Maybe that's too far out.
Well, and August is hard because come September, then they have their school taxes, and school taxes isn't, you know, they're not permitted to do the partial payments. So it's going to be one bill after another, and you know, budgeting. You know, maybe we should start with our.
So some schools do the partial payments, because Pine Plains does it. That's what led Stanford initially to get involved.
I only think about this corridor, the Route 22 corridor. So I just what is going to work best for everyone.
Right. No, good points.
Thanks.
Any other questions on any other topics?
No, I think we're good.
Put you to sleep? Tried. All right, well, I thank you, and thank you for the service of me hopping in here and then and going right up to the podium. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, Water District report. May?
May Jones, Water Committee. Last night we canceled our meeting. We didn't have any problems last month, so it was no use having a meeting. I want to publicly thank both Catherine and Donna in the Assessor's Office for making this map possible. This is a map of the Water District. This is the hamlet. Okay, there we go. This is the map of the Water District, the hamlet. And I suggest that you get some kind of protector for this. So when people look at it and point at their parcel of land and won't stay. We received 3 maps, one for the assessor's office, one for the pump house, and one for the town.
Where is is that the town's?
Pardon me?
Is the town, where is the town's? The one for the town?
This is it.
That's it? Oh, good.
That's awesome.
Okay?
Give it to,
Here we go.
give it to Dawn.
Yep.
Get it filled up without messing it up.
thank the assessor and Donna for doing that.
A grant report. Mike is working on the grant that is due on Monday to the CFA for the sidewalks. I would just like to report that on Wednesday we had an audit with Erin Kenny from the state of New York for the Main Street grant. She went through all our files and we took a tour downtown and showed her the streetscape and the improvements to the Amenia Library, the Amenia Post Office, and the transformation of the Patel Building. She found everything was in order. She said there would be no findings, which she described to us as, something that was wrong that couldn't be done. Nothing could be done about it. There were no findings. There were no concerns. And she's going to be sending a summary letter to us. But all in all, they were very pleased with the Main Street grant, especially in the face of adversity when in the beginning of the grant cycle, we had started a plan of giving the bulk of the Main Street grant funds to one person, and that didn't work out, so we had to quickly regroup and and go to the next people on the list to get the funds for the grant, and we pulled it off, all of us working together, meeting every week on Tuesday. But they were very happy with us with what we did with the grant and with the paper trail. Other committee reports?
Now for my other hat. Chris Klingner, Amenia Chair, Recreation Chair. Just a couple of things. Summer camp is starting. Sign-ups were today from 5:30 to 6:30. It'll also be on the 19th from 5:30 to 6:30 right here in the front of the town hall. Camp will start on June 30th. We'll go to August 8th. It'll be 9 to 3. It's $80 a week, $90 a week for out of town. Second and third child will be $60 per week. Monday and Wednesday will be pool trips up at the Millerton Pool. Fridays will be their field trips. Tuesday, Thursday here, arts, crafts, sports, individual activities. We have basketball, men's basketball still going on Fridays up at the high school. I believe that's still 5 to 8. We have about 15 to 20 people. Baseball, Farm League, and Little League getting ready to wind down. They're having a great season. Connie Mack, Babe Ruth will be starting up here pretty soon. And gymnastics for cheerleading has been going on in gymnasium. And the only other thing is I did receive a letter for the Wasaig Park about some issues there. I didn't know if you guys received the same letter. If there's somebody could speak to our town employees or whatever. To
Yeah, I just want to say that Christine Ford and I cleaned up the garbage earlier this week.
Thank you very much.
I went there. I went down to the park, took a look at it. I think the garbage has been an ongoing issue, and I thought enough was enough. There's like an old garbage can that's there, and everybody's taking turns going there trying to pick it up. So I called up Welch and told them to bring down a container, and they're going to chain it to the wooden pieces that are there that were holding another garbage can. And basically how it's going to work the same way the garbage container works at the tennis courts. I mean, we will call him, when the garbage is full, and they will come and get it. They're not going to be coming every week and charging us to come every week to get it. I also spoke to Sean Howard, and he and Chucky Naville, who's working with him now, are going down and they're going to be removing the weeds in the playground area, and also seeing what we need to do with the mulch. Sometimes the mulch just needs to be raked and evened out.
Just mats down a little.
Yeah, it's kind of like bunched up in one spot and no mulch in another spot, like under the swing. So they're going to go down and look at that, and they're going to do an assessment of both parks to see if we need mulch under the playground equipment in Beekman or Wasack.
Right, but probably
And
so.
One of the other things that was brought in the letter was the split rail fence along the walkway. It's my understanding that's owned by Metro North, and I have asked the code enforcement officer to contact Metro North and tell them that this is an obvious safety issue, and to, you know, see what they'll do about it. One of the other issues was the grass outside the ball field fence perimeter. That particular grass is not part of the bid specs. So, you know, the person that mows down there, that isn't part of the contract we have with him to mow that grass. But that's what I went ahead and did with the park.
All right. Thank you. I just wasn't sure. I just wanted to make sure on that. I know we do have that piece of equipment. Do you think it's all possible, maybe, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Stan, but maybe somehow or another kind of come together with the highway department, maybe the parks department, to borrow the old water department truck, and maybe they can transport our piece of equipment down there, which would make their jobs much easier over there.
What piece of equipment?
We have that Kubota that was purchased.
Oh, the Kubota?
Right.
I don't know. We could look into that. I did ask Stan. I noticed the path going down into the park where the fence is was washed, and apparently it washes every year.
All right.
And he's going to repair that.
All right.
You know, the walkway down into the park.
Oh, excellent.
But
And then-
I think what we need to do going forward, and I'm going to be working with the Recreation Commission and also, you know, the employees who do the maintenance, to get a plan in place so that, you know, we have regular times where, you know, to go down to the Wasack Park and, you know, see what needs to be done. I think we need to do an assessment of all our parks anyway.
Right.
You know, just take a look at everything. We're very fortunate that Silo Ridge and the Discovery Company have been working with Beekman Park. They fertilized the whole park.
Right.
They're going to work on the parking lot and do
Right.
the parking lot over, and there's also looking at the sprinkler system. And they're you know, donating their time and money and materials to upgrade the park.
That's
And we thank
phenomenal.
them for that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much. And then one other one. Were we ever able to find that other rule sign?
There's one sign that's at the, near the kiosk.
All right.
So if it needs to be reinstalled, or, you know, I don't know if it's supposed to be at the entrance. It has the park rules sign, you know, the list that you've shown.
Right.
So I don't know if that's the appropriate sign for there, or if that sign should be located down in the park.
I know when it was first put up, it was put up right at the entrance.
Yeah.
So as they're going in, and that was pretty much right there at the end of the
So
split
where
rail
is it?
fence.
By the kiosk?
It's by the kiosk.
Okay.
And,
Well, we'll have
It
to-
needs to be reinstalled
I do have the
formally.
sign company looking into, they're going to get back to me with, you know,
Quotes.
the second layout of the same thing I sent to you, Victoria, with the sign rules.
Right.
With a couple extra rules on there that I incorporated. So as soon as they get back to me, I want to just forward it on to everybody, just so you can, if you approve it. If not, we'll go back to the other ones.
Yeah,
Just a couple more things, you know, that kind of go along with what should be, you know, what's proper at the park.
Okay.
I did take a look. I saw the no smoking signs all posted up. That was really good.
Right.
They did a good job with that. You know, which sign are we talking about here? Are we talking the one for Wasack, or are we talking the one for Beekman?
What's that, the signs?
For the park rules?
The rules, they're
Yeah,
supposed to be
for-
both.
The Beekman Park, the rules unfortunately are missing,
But
but
the
the one,
Wasack one's
Wasack
down by
one was
kiosk.
found. So we'll try to get that back up, and
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
try
have
to keep
to
everything
see
going.
if they're there. So
Is
they're-
Stan gonna put it in for us, or?
Put what in?
The existing sign has a steel rod attached to it, so
Oh.
I don't know that it was ever
I don't remember it be
formally.
put on a steel rod. I
No,
thought it was just put on
maybe
a fence
Tom
post.
did. I don't know. Tom did it, so it
Oh,
was
thank you, Tom.
just never put into the ground formally, I would think.
Oh, well,
Well, I think
okay.
when we get them, we'll make sure they're installed properly.
right. So we'll get there. And then I'm going to turn it over to Frankie if she wants to talk about the senior trips.
Chris, I got one question.
Have at it.
The equipment. What happens to the old equipment? The old baseball bats and baseballs and helmets and stuff like that?
As of right now, I know in the past we tried to donate them to whoever wanted them, because they weren't garbage. So if there were some kids that maybe didn't have anything, we kind of just gave it over to them because it wasn't good enough to use in the leagues. But truthfully, you could, we can pose that question to Christine since she's running the farm league right now.
Well, the reason I brought it up is, I had a concerned citizen come in and there was a lot of baseball equipment in the dumpster. Now, if we're just chucking baseball equipment
What dumpster?
in a dumpster over at the park. So if we're...
I'm sorry, but was it old as in just not usable anymore, or?
Who knows?
All right.
You know what I mean?
No,
That's why I'm saying, is there anything in place that we inspect the equipment and we deem it not usable or anything like that, or anything that could be, if it's not up to our standards, can we donate it somewhere else instead of just chucking it in a dumpster? That's the worry that I
could probably say yes to all of it, but it all depends on, how good the stuff really is. If you want to give it out and somebody go back to liability.
No, I understand.
This way we don't hurt anybody, but we do at the beginning of every year before anything's ever purchased. Balls, of course, they're always purchased, but any equipment that's ever purchased, whoever's running the league at that time will go through, see what's good.
I just wonder if there's any kind of inventory list of what
They
gets
try to do an inventory every
destroyed,
year.
what gets thrown out, what's new, what's not new.
We can get a better handle on that.
Okay.
How's that? We'll try to work a little harder and try to do and come up with an absolute plan for all of it. There was kind of a plan on how we took care of things, but we'll get it down. So,
Okay.
by all means. We're good?
There's one more thought when we're talking about installing these signs is the peace pole that has been donated to the park, Beekman Park. We were trying to look at it tonight where a good location would be, and are there thoughts from the Recreation Committee about where they want that peace sign?
I know when they wanted to donate it, they were hoping to put it somewhere near the bench that was donated. Somewhere by the flagpole, the bench donated,
Yep.
somewhere in that little area had like a whole little memorial area.
Yep.
I think that we were all fine with that, right, Frankie? Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's what we were hoping for, somewhere in that location.
So Christine and I looked at it tonight, just seizing the moment, and the square that encloses the little memorial, we thought maybe just outside of the square on the square closest to the pedestrian access road.
Right.
So it would just be outside of it, and maybe a few spirea or something low around each side might be a good, it wouldn't compete with.
Works for me.
Okay.
Anywhere
else
there,
good
it's a
with that?
donation, and it's part of our history. More than happy to have it somewhere
Wherever
there.
they want it, it doesn't matter.
All right.
Do we
There you
know
go.
when the ceremony's going to be?
Well, we need to think about that as a town board, what time and how many, groups would be involved. I think this Saturday was just too busy with Father's Day and the Strawberry Festival and all of that. So if we can, after this meeting, open our calendars and see for a date in July or August.
Evelyn O'Connell, Recreation. Thanks a lot, Victoria, for taking care of that. Back when Wayne was a supervisor and Joel and Sean were both employees of the town, they had one day a week they went down to the park. I think it was Thursday or I don't know what day, but it was one day a week, and they would see what had to be repaired if there was anything and just check everything. So now that we have a second person, I know the last 2 years Sean just couldn't do it all. He was alone. But maybe you could talk to Sean and work something like that out.
Well, that's what they went down this week, I believe, one day on Wednesday. And
Because
that's
I
what they're
think
gonna do.
I think if it gets checked on a regular basis, we won't have the vandalism in that, because people will know they're coming down there.
Okay.
Yeah, and as that's something that I've kind of taken on, when I was walking around town. Checking out Beacon Park, and then I decided I think it's going to be a regular thing for me to go down to Wassaic and check out that park. I did, Christine alluded to concerns about, being that it is where it is, isolated, some nefarious activities taking place down there. So, maybe we should look into having it regularly patrolled.
I thank you, Stephen, for doing that too. But I do think that this last year or so, we haven't had the vandalism that we had before. I'm thankful for that.
I think it's being used more. I think the fire department is using it for softball, and I think it's being used a lot more.
Right, right. Well, I'm just trying to advertise the senior picnic, or senior trip, which is July 9th, to Best Western at Hunt's Landing in Matamoros, Pennsylvania. It's a great trip. We arrived there around 10:30. They have coffee and donuts for us. Everything is included in this price for $34, other than if you want to play bingo. And then from 11 to 1, they have bingo, or they have shops you can go to. They have swimming. They have card games. They have so there's a lot you can do from 11 to 1.
Entertainment, country western.
We have a country western band. And 1 o'clock to 2:30, they have a themed lunch. And then 3 to 4, they have live entertainment. So it's really a great trip for $34. Anybody interested? We do have the 25 people, which is our minimum we have to go. So if anybody else is interested, please let us know. The money has to be in by July 1st. It's $34. You can call me at 373-9693 or mail a check to P.O. Box 96, Amenia, New York, 12501. Or Charlene Pollinger at 393 Old Route 22, Wassaic, New York, 12592. The check has to be made out, it's only check only or money order, has to be made out to the town of Amenia. And you can just put senior trip on it. But please mail it to either myself or Charlene, because we're keeping track of who's going. Okay? Thank you very much. Please sign up. The seats are going fast.
Are there any other committee reports?
The Enhancement Committee would like to thank the students from Maplebrook School who came out and did such a great job on planting day. They planted over 700 plants in Amenia, and it was just really fantastic, and it was very well received, and the plants are doing great. The Enhancement Committee is taking care of them. So thanks to the students of Maplebrook. We really appreciated your support.
Any other committee reports? Okay, we have escrow account vouchers for payment. We can sign them after the meeting if you'd like to do it then. These are for all the projects we currently have. In addition, I have a letter from Community Action Partnership with a request for funds. So the Dutchess County Community Action Partnership would like again to request your support in the upcoming year. Your municipality's financial support helps Community Action provide your constituents with basic needs in times of crisis. Your financial support of $5,196 is vital. Without the support, the Community Action Partnership is unable to receive the state and federal dollars that make it possible to meet the needs within Dutchess County and your community. On average, every dollar you invest in your community leverages $50 of services for those in need. With your help, Community Action Partnership is able to distribute food to the hungry, health and wellness support with prescription assistance, and wraparound resources to support frail and elderly seniors at risk of losing the ability to meet their basic needs, food, clothing, and shelter. The services leveraged through municipal support are critical to Dutchess County residents. At your request, I would be available to identify the specific services provided through Community Action for Dutchess County residents in your community, attend your board meeting, schedule an appointment with appropriate officials, or any other venue of your choice. Community Action can continue to partner with you to meet the needs of your constituents with your help. Sincerely, Elizabeth Carlton Spira. And I wondered, how does the board feel about a donation of $5,196 to Dutchess County Community Action Partnership?
That's from budgeting. In our budget.
Do we have it in the budget?
We should. I believe so.
We usually give it every
Community
year.
action, yes.
I mean, is this a good program?
Oh, yes, it's vital for the neediest people in our county, and they serve our residents. Very important. And we give it every year, and it's something that we budget for, and we decide at budget time to support.
And which line is that in, and how much did we budget for this year?
It should be for that amount. It's the line called Community Action. I don't have the budget on me, but it is.
Community action.
Well, I don't have the
That's the exact amount.
accurate numbers.
601.01.83.
Yeah.
It's the
Vicki,
exact amount.
It
It's
is?
helping
Okay.
local people and stuff
Oh, is
too?
it ever?
Okay.
Yes. The neediest of the needy.
Okay, I make a motion that we continue our financial support to Dutchess County Community Action Partnership in the amount of $5,196.
I'll second it.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Brody?
Yes.
And
Yeah. Yes.
Supervisor Brody?
Okay, I sent information out about appointed assessor versus we currently have an elected assessor position. One of the other, I asked Catherine to be here to assist in the discussion. One of the things she brought to my attention is that part of the assessor's requirements is data collection. And our former assessor did data collection as well as his assessor duties, but however, we have a temporary assessor who, in addition to being assessor here, is also assessor at Town and Northeast. And so we are in need of a data collector. There is a line in the budget for $500 for it. And Catherine gave me as the application of the person who currently has his position in the Town and Northeast. Catherine, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you. Yes, I recommended that the data collector I use currently in Northeast, Mr. John Lloyd. He's been working for us for about 8 years. He also worked for Pine Plains when they did their reassessment project the last couple of years. He's well experienced and he's ready to jump in and give us a hand. Right now what we're looking at was we have a pretty good backlog of building permits and COs that are sitting on the desk waiting to go out in the field and be looked at. New things that were built, upgrades, and that all needs to be collected and put into the record so it can be assessed and put on next year's roll. That's the project I'm working on right now. The next step, we got through grievance day and we put out, the final roll will be put out on July 1st, and the next project we have to start is, and the best time to do it is the summertime, so I'd like to be able to have him collect the data for me so I can get started on the assessment so we can get that rolling for next year's roll.
We haven't advertised for this position. This person just volunteered to come and submit
yes,
their...
I asked him.
You asked him to
he
submit
works
it.
there. He works for me already, and
Yeah.
he has time on his hands. He's retired, and he's happy to give us a couple hours
Yeah, he's
a week.
experienced. He's been doing it for Town and Northeast for 8 years.
Is this something that they need some kind of certification or training to
Yes,
do?
absolutely.
So the average citizen wouldn't be qualified necessarily?
Correct.
To do
It's
that.
there's about a week-long class given by the state for data collection, and he's been certified in it for many years.
All right. I'd make a motion that we hire him. You think the $500 is adequate for the needs that you need him to?
I haven't yet put together the list. I probably, it won't be. He'll probably run over that if we want to get as much done as possible over the summer. But I can give you a better estimate as when I put together the list of properties that need to be visited.
And what is his hourly rate?
We pay, I don't know if you had, I think it's $17 to $25 an hour.
$17.25?
Yes. That's, after being with us for 8 years, he's at that rate.
And you recommend that we hire him at that rate again?
I would, yes.
I'll make a motion that we hire John Lloyd of Millerton to be the data collector at $17.25 per hour under the supervision of Catherine.
I'd like to see it advertised and for us to get a closer estimate as to how much money this amount of work is going to cost.
Okay.
Well, we can advertise, but the person has to have
I understand that.
certified.
So there's no second to my motion, so.
I'll second it. Is there any other discussion?
What's the motion to accept the employment?
Would be to
John Lloyd.
hire John Lloyd.
Since he has a certification.
And I'd like to see it advertised to give other people, especially people who live in Amenia, a chance to apply for it if they're qualified. And I'd also like to get a better estimate as to how much this is going to cost. It's going to go over the budgeted money.
Have you worked with John Lloyd before?
Yes, he's worked for the last 6.5 years.
How many parcels do we need the data assessment for, or the data collection for?
I don't know exactly. There's a stack on my desk.
Okay.
We just got through grievance day, so I haven't
we're
gotten
kind
to
of
it yet.
behind on this, aren't we?
Yes. And being spring and summer, it's when most of the building's getting done, so we need to be on top of it.
Is there any other discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, roll, please.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
No.
Supervisor Brody?
Yes.
Councilwoman
Yes.
Doyle? And Councilman Brody?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And is there anything else you wanted to?
I
we were-
guess I just wanted to report on what's been going on in the office, but I kind of touched on that. We got through grievance day. We had 41 complaints filed, about 10 walk-ins wanted to present their cases. The Board of Assessment Review has made their determinations, and we're putting them together and will be mailed out next week. Then our roll will be finalized and will be out for the public inspection as the law requires by July 1st. It'll be on display in our office, in the town clerk's office, and online. So we expect that to be all taken care of in a timely fashion. And then, like I said, the next project is data collection and assessments for next year's roll. And we chug along.
Okay, and did you want to give us any information about appointed versus elected?
Well, just like you said, everyone should have the information in front of them that our county director, Eric Axelson, sent out, just so you can acquaint yourselves with the options that are in front of you. As I see it, you have basically 3 options, and I'm sure your town attorney can clarify this for me. I just wanted to throw that out to you. You can either have a special election and elect a newly elected assessor. You can fill the vacancy of the elected position for the remainder of the term by someone qualified to run for office. So that would be someone that lives in Amenia, has the qualifications of, I believe it's 18 years old, live in the town of Amenia, and I'm not sure there's many more. Or you can appoint a certified assessor and that person would have to get qualified within a certain period of time, go for all the educational credits and all the training classes that the state offers. Or you could appoint an already certified assessor from outside the town, but in doing so, the position of the sole elected assessor would be eliminated, and that may or may not be subject to referendum. But those, I believe, are your options that are laid in front of you. And right now, like I said, I'm here as your appointed acting assessor for the next 2 months, and I'm going to try to get the ball rolling on all the projects that need to be done. But after that 2-month period, someone needs to pick up and carry on and finish out the role. So you basically need to make a decision on how you want to proceed to fill the vacancy.
I would rule out the special election given the cost.
I don't mean special as in other than in November. It could be in November, but it would be special election, meaning that it's not a normal election time for assessor, so in that sense, it's special.
Oh, okay. So we wouldn't incur additional costs. It could be done.
Right, it could be done in November.
Okay.
But then the later it is, the longer you go without an assessor, so.
Right.
Yeah, but right now, we only have Catherine until August. So one of our options is we can appoint another person who's qualified, in August to carry us through close to the end of the year. So.
I would go with that option. That seems like the easiest route to follow, assuming that there will be candidates who are qualified to step forward in Amenia.
I would agree with that.
And one of the other options we have is changing from an elected 6-year position to an appointed 6-year position. One of the things that allows you to do is share that assessor with another town like Dover does with Beekman. Dover pays 40% of the assessor's salary and Beekman pays 60%. So you have more options with the position when it's appointed versus elected. So that's something, the board has the information and they can think about it. And, we have time to, decide what you want to do either way. And I think, Denise, you have looked into this a little bit too, I think.
Right. Section 328 of the Real Property Tax Law says that the legislative body, which is the town board, in your discretion can determine that a local law adopted pursuant to this section shall be subject to mandatory or permissive referendum or not subject to a referendum. So that part of it is in, the discretion of the board. And then you would appoint, under section 310, an appointive assessor shall be appointed by the legislative body of the local government. Such assessor shall be appointed, well, that's a different thing. Any resident of the state otherwise eligible for appointment as assessor may be appointed assessor. So it gives you more flexibility in that respect, as far as a resident of the town. Once you go over to the appointed position, you can't go back to the elected.
It's a big decision.
So I got a question as to, so let's say somebody runs for assessor. They get elected, and what's their time frame? Because I can recall when you became the assessor for the town of Northeast, it was kind of a situation where nobody really wanted the job, and you kind of had to start from scratch. And as far as getting your training, how long did it take you to get all of the training that you needed to get your certification?
It took me just a little over 2 years. And I was aggressively pursuing the training, but they only give some certain courses at certain times, and you can only, so it did take a while. One of our objectives was for me to get trained right away so we could do a new reassessment project. And so I tried to get the classes in as soon as I could, and it's very difficult still with the state.
Denise, for us to vote on if it's elected or appointed, do we have to put that vote on a ballot, or we could decide that as a board?
No, that would be the local law.
That would be
You would
local
pass a
law.
local law that you want to switch over to the appointed
Okay.
position. So assuming, let's say if you did that quickly, because I know, we're under the time constraints here with, Catherine being an acting assessor until August, I think August 8th, somewhere there. At that point, I think you're going to have to fill it under the town law as an elected position. And then if you're going to leave it as elective, you'd have to have the election in November, and then that person would take over the beginning of the year if it's elective. If you do the switch over to the appointed, then as soon as you get that local law done, you could appoint somebody.
But we can, in August, our other option, from what I've read, is that we can appoint another acting person.
That's
for
true.
3 more months.
That's true. You can
If
continue to do
We can
that.
also do that to give ourselves more time to, to figure out what we want to do.
Right. Absolutely, that's within your power to do. You could appoint another one, or another 3 months, another. The problem is it has to be a different person. Like, you couldn't reappoint me. So I don't want to advise you in any way, but I wouldn't advise that, because, you'd have one person doing some assessing and another person doing some other portion, and another person. So I don't know that route you want to go.
I mean, I think that can also become a problem when you've got the tax certiorari cases.
That's true.
And we do have 2 pending that we have a conference in July that have been
They have to
pending
be
for
resolved in
years.
July,
Well,
pretty much.
I'm not saying they have to be totally resolved, but there needs to be some progress reported to the judge, because they have been pending for about a year. I mean, I've advised him of the situation, having a death, of the assessor, but that's only going to go so far.
Okay, I just wanted the board to be aware of, of the situation and the options, so that we can think about it and decide what we want to do. We have time.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you are leaning towards switching over to the appointed position, I don't know that you want to delay, because, there may be an issue. We'd have to talk with the Board of Elections about what's going to be on the ballot for November. You know what I mean? If you're going to do a local law soon,
Then
to
there
switch to
wouldn't be
appointed.
anything on the ballot.
Right, and I don't know what their lead
There's
time
deadlines.
is.
There are major deadlines for
Yeah.
making sure the ballot is how it's supposed to be. There's a question back there.
Can you come up to the microphone, please? Thank you, Catherine.
I just wanted to ask, if you do appoint somebody, how long is the term? Is there a term limit?
Maximum of 3 months.
No, you mean,
if you appoint somebody.
If we appoint someone as assessor to fill out the rest of the term, they have another 3 years.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if there was a term limit or what, so thank you.
Well, it's a 6-year term, and there's 3 years left on the existing term, I believe. Sure.
For appointed assessors, there's an actual schedule in the state, and of course, I can't find it now.
Yeah, I was talking about the elected position. There's
she
3
said-
more.
I
No,
thought she said
that's okay.
appointed.
There's
Yes,
3
right.
three
For-
years left on if it stays elected.
Right, if you appoint someone to fill his term, it's 3 years. If you go to an appointed assessor, there's a term set up by the state. All appointed assessors in the state have the same 6-year period, so they would be filling the remainder of that period, which I think is 5 years left. So they be appointed to a 6-year period, of which there's 5 years left.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah,
correct?
because I think it started in 2013.
13.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
October 1st of 13.
Yeah,
or
because,
something
okay, they have a,
strange like that.
okay, so the appointed has a separate
Has it on schedule.
date schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a lot to think about. Okay, we have is there any other discussion? No? Okay. Thank you, Catherine. We have a request for bids to cut grass and weeds on foreclosed properties from John Fenton, Code Enforcement Officer. Dear Town Board, I respectfully request the board to allow for the bid of a third-party lawn maintenance company to cut the grass and weeds from 14 Main Street, Wassaic, New York, and 18 Furnace Bank Road, Wassaic, New York, according to local law number 3, 2012, section 121-51-1, abandoned property. All bushes, trees, and grass must be neatly trimmed and not obstruct the view of the front of the house from the public roadway. Thank you for your consideration. Whatever this cost would be, the cost would be put on the taxes of the premises that we are cleaning. We believe we've done this with 3 properties so far, at least 3. So I make a motion for John Fenton to get 3 bids of third-party lawn maintenance company to cut grass and weeds from these 2 places.
I'll second.
Discussion.
I think it worked out really well last time when we had them clean up the properties.
Yes, and then the, surrounding properties, property values aren't going down because of of everything overgrown next to them.
I'll second it.
I think Gretchen.
Oh, she did.
Seconded.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No. I clean up Wassaic.
Okay, highway garage discussion. Basically, we have the plans for the highway garage and, the amount of bays and how it looks. However, the problem is finding a place to put the highway garage. It would be a substantial cost to the town to take down the existing building. I believe we got an estimate for about $8,000 to assess, whether there's lead, asbestos, or PCBs in the existing building, which could actually be left and used for storage. And the soil where the existing building is, we were looking, in back of the existing building, like where the pole barn is or where the sand pile is. But the problem is all the soil in that area from soil boring tests that we had done has debris in it and glass and wood because it was a landfill, I believe, from the old board and milk factory. However, there is a piece of land for sale next to the existing highway garage that years ago in 2006, I believe an appraisal was done. And there were 3 test pits dug on it, and they found it was pretty much good bank run with no fill. So we can also look for other properties in the town to see where there would be a good place to build a highway garage, since we have problems with the soil where the existing is. Another thing we possibly could do down where the highway garage is in that particular area is use what they call piles, to build the garage, which would stabilize the building, in soil that is basically unstable. So as we're moving forward, we're, going to be looking to see if there's, other land, and also see, if we need to do appraisals on any land that we find. There was, many years ago, $5,000 donated for the highway garage that we can use for the appraisal money. I believe there's about not quite $6,200 in that account from all the interest that we've accrued since it was first donated. So I think what we need to do is think about going forward in looking at other places that we could put the highway garage, because we're going to have to spend money to build one, because there's no money put away other than the $6,200 to use for appraisal or engineering cost or whatever other costs it will entail to build it. And if we're going to build it, you know, we need to use the taxpayers' money as frugally as possible. So, you know, we're going to have to find the most appropriate place to build the highway garage. There's no question that we need one, but you know, we just need to look at all options that are out there of a place to, you know, to put it.
I would just mention that the location down in that little narrow valley between the mountainous steep slope and the stream that is a protected stream is not an ideal place for a highway garage to be sliced in there at its present location. So I would encourage us all to look and think as hard as we can for an alternative site that's accessible and central to where it's you know, where they need to operate from. You know, I know we've been tossing this around a long time, but it behooves us to really think long and hard before we lock ourselves into that parcel that I believe is inappropriate for, you know, that's just my personal opinion. It's too expensive to put the pilings in for the size of building that you'd get down there. It's a tiny little, we need 5 acres of buildable land that isn't filled with unstable material or wetland. You know, it's got to exist somewhere.
Victoria, can you take a look and see if Terry Gibson ever got back to the supervisor last May when we asked if he could see if the state would be willing to give part of the DDSO for a highway garage?
You know, Darlene and Stan went over that land.
Oh, where the state one is?
That's state DDSO property.
That's in worse shape than his is.
And they couldn't find anything that was appropriate.
Not 1
We're
square
better
foot.
than Borden.
I don't know. Only place I went is the DDSO's highway garage, which is pretty, you know, not very good shape, and it's kind of land. I mean, you really don't have the room to put it there. I'm not saying there's no other place there. I mean, we can look into that.
It was something I mean, I remember it because it was my first board meeting, and we asked him, you know, is it possible? And he said, oh, that sounds good. I'll think about it. I'll get back to you guys. And then I never heard another thing about it. So maybe there's something in the file or something.
I can check.
That'd be awesome.
Maybe,
Thank you.
Maybe possibly check with the governor's office as well. Maybe go a little bit higher up the chain a little bit.
Yes, actually, his associate called me. He gave me his cell phone. Guess I can use it. Yeah, I didn't want anybody to think we aren't moving ahead in the highway garage. We know we need to build one. We just want to find the most sensible place to build one, since this, you know, is such a cost to the town.
The Stern property, as I recall, just to follow up, was 0.75 acres. It was less than an acre. Not big enough.
0.7.
Not big enough for even a salt shed. So as compelling as it is that it's right next to our existing, it doesn't do what we need it to do.
Well, we were looking at the Stearns property. From what I'm seeing, the whole parcel is 1.7 acres.
Right, but there's a house.
There's a house.
Right.
Now, if you do a lot line adjustment of 0.6 and you put the highway garage on the 0.6 acres, because it borders the property, I mean, in that area, I wouldn't say it's ideal, but it's definitely worth looking into, because now you have the existing town garage that could be used for another storage space instead of taking it down.
Right, but if you want a salt shed, you're not going to get it in there.
you're not going to get it in there,
And where's
but,
your equipment? Your equipment's down at the highway garage, right?
well, your equipment's going to be in the highway garage.
Right.
So now where the pole barn is could be a salt shed.
I don't think so.
But you understand, there's a lot of planning that has to go into this. I
The
mean,
soil borings pretty much rule out any structure of an expensive sort because of the cost.
yeah, but a salt shed is basically not a structure. It's big cement blocks with a canopy over top of it.
Well, they looked and looked for a salt shed. We had a grant that was outstanding, and we looked for 10, 12 years and finally had to give it back because there was not a parcel that was appropriate for us to put a salt shed on, including
The
that
town. Well,
land.
you know, like I said, it's just time to look. You know, I know we've been looking for years.
Our options open.
Yeah.
There may be some other options that we could kind of look at as far as we don't necessarily have to, you know, I'm not in favor of having it down there. I think at the time we moved and gave our highway department the room necessary for them to be able to function without concern of being in a building that is, you know, structurally at the latter end of its days, you know, and you can either continue to pour money into our existing infrastructure, or we can look for another option, another piece of property that is better suited, gives them good, be able to enter and exit safely, and have the room that they need for the highway garage. So I think we should definitely keep our eyes open and look around the town.
Yeah,
to see
the other
sites.
place that I looked into, I met with Gary Cooper from the county about the county building
Mhm.
where their highway garage is. I mean, they also have a salt shed. He said there wouldn't be enough room for, you know, our salt needs and their salt needs, but there's room to like build a salt shed needs. But there's not enough room on that parcel of land, it's a little over 4 acres, you know, to put our highway garage. Especially since the back part of that parcel, there's a stream. So I did check with the county to see if there were any options there, because I thought shared services, we could share the fuel depot, we could, you know, share the salt area, but that didn't work either. There just isn't enough room there for us to do that. So, you know, we're all looking at all options. We do want to build a highway garage. The current highway garage is unsafe. And we have, you know, too much money invested in highway equipment to continue to leave it outside. And so, you know, we're just moving forward as best we can toward this goal.
Is there some way of reaching out to the Amenia Fire District or company and finding out what their current long-term goals are, since they have land and intentions at some point to build? And
Yeah.
maybe combining forces with them to share a facility, either on Mechanic Street or at their new location.
I can do that.
Proposed location.
Yeah, I
Because
was
it would
actually
seem
looking
if
at
we-
that.
If we combine our, you know, that's a suitable, if the parcel that, wherever they're planning to improve, they will leave a facility, right? Or
Yeah, well, that's-
where they use both.
Where Station 2 is, that's, I believe that's a 5-acre parcel. I was involved in the lot line adjustment to create that parcel back many moons ago when the Perotis owned it. And, you know, as far as the location goes, I thought of maybe, I was looking at the idea, you know, maybe approaching the fire company and possibly doing like maybe a lease agreement with them, a long-term lease for the actual location for the highway garage. We did do something similar as far as the arrangement we had with having a town hall in their firehouse. And I was thinking maybe along those lines, whether they'd be open to that type of arrangement in the future. But that's totally up to them. That's their decision to make. But it doesn't hurt to ask.
I think the finances of pooling, you know, the engineering and the design fees and the costs, you know, and logistics, just of two entities working together to build one compatible facility for both parties, would be just an ideal shared services that grants might be coming to us because we're obviously working together rather than building separate roads and separate infrastructure. If they're compatible with fire trucks and large, I can visualize them coexisting on either the same parcel or.
Well, I'll be following up with that too.
Great.
Public comment?
Tom Warner, Amenia. I'd like to thank Vicki for remembering that I put that sign up. That was quite a while ago. But you're talking about this changing the, I guess it's the Guy's gravel pit over off of Leedsville or whichever. I know that one member of the board was quite adamant that they didn't want that done a few years ago, plus all of our neighbors, because of the truck traffic. I'd like to see if you're gonna turn this, make the county the lead agency, that you add something in there in the terms of a bond so that we can have this thing reclaimed. We have all kinds of rules that they're supposed, when they leave, reclaim it or do it in sections. It just doesn't happen. You have a thing called a rock farm law. And they were only supposed to do, I believe it was an acre at a time or a little larger parcel.
Ian was doing 5 acres at a time.
Was it 5 acres?
5 acres on the Ridgecrest property.
The one place that I know that it has been done, they did the whole mountainside and just haven't reclaimed anything. And had we had it bonded, you would have had money enough to reclaim the land. And, these are not just small things. To me, I don't want to see the town changed. I guess I'm an old fogey, but I like it what it is. And I don't want garbage pits everywhere. Thank you.
Cheryl Morse, Amenia. With respect to the highway garage, one of the issues that had come up in the past too is because the location so close to us, say a creek, is that when we have episodic high periods of rainfall, that a salt shed being that close to the creek, because it's a trout spawning area and whatnot, there was some concern that salt could wash into the creek, and I think there's been a problem with that in the past, when it's stored down there. So again, that is not an appropriate location. Now, I know there was some talk by the fellows at GrowMax in conversations that I've had with them and other people have had with them, that when we had the transfer station there, if we had still continued to have the transfer station there, Kip had actually mentioned that they had considered offering to the town the opportunity to build a highway garage down there on that property. um, th- in an effort to be a good neighbor, but also to do something nice for the town. And it was the position of a former supervisor that that he felt that the gesture was being made because there was an issue over, you know, their zoning and their ability to continue doing the soil there. But that might not be a bad idea to pursue. Another option is that eyesore of a hole down there in Wassaic, that old mine that someone just left and never reclaimed. I don't know what the plans were for that property or whatever, but that might not be a bad location. I don't know how much acreage is there. I'd have to go back and look at parcel access, but certainly it would be accessible. You know, we have trucks going up and down that road, and it'd be worth looking into. I think it's unfortunate that the individual who owned the property and mined it never did the remediation that should have been done, because it is unattractive. And of course, you can see it from 22, you can see it from old, you know, 22 when you go down, and it's really a shame that we have that eyesore there. And there may be even a potential that if that person was approached and they donated the land to the town, they would certainly see tax benefits, and it might lend an atmosphere of more respectability and appreciation for something that was left untended. And then there's also the issue of potentially looking at something like that under eminent domain. Nobody's ever done anything to improve that property. So just a thought, thinking outside of the box.
Is this property on Old Route 22?
Yeah, it's that old gravel mine, you know, that's down
Peaborn?
by Luther's.
I think she's talking about Peaburn.
Peaborn's.
Peaburn.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know the name of the
It's tied
owner.
up in court, but it may, in fact, be another option.
It's just a suggestion, because I know you're so limited as to, you know, finding that much acreage that's in a location that's easily accessible, that, you know, might not be a bad idea. The worst I can say is no, and it could help. So that's just kind of my thought on it. But, you know, obviously we do need this, and it would be terrible to just continue, you know, leaving equipment outside and them having to work in the conditions that they have to work in. And then, of course, the building just deteriorating more and more, and the expense of fixing it just, you know, it's sort of good money after bad. So just my thought on that option. Thank you.
Okay, before we do town board comments, I'd like to know if the board would be available next Thursday for a meeting to approve a change order for the Old Amenia landfill, and also to get approval to pay claims.
That would be the 19th, Thursday the 19th?
Yes.
There's a planning board meeting that night at 7. But otherwise, I could do that.
Okay.
Like 5:30 would be great, unless that's hard for you, right? 7:30 is fine.
Or earlier in the week is better for me also. Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
Does it have to be Thursday?
Does it have to be Thursday?
Well, I think, I think with the change order, it had to be a week from the time we did the change order, or it doesn't matter?
No, that was something else.
That was something else?
Yeah.
Can we not
So
approve
I
the
don't-
change order tonight, or is that?
I don't have it yet. We have to wait till Sevenson approves it. But
Oh.
we could actually do it any day next week then, right? What was it I needed a week for? Was
That
it the
pertained
change-
to the local law.
What?
Local law. If you're doing a local law, that was something different.
Okay, but we're not doing that, okay. So, what day is better for everyone next week?
The only day that I have available is Monday the 16th.
That works for me.
Monday the 16th? 7:30?
7:30 would be perfect.
It's good for me, so.
All right,
This change order, and what else, vouchers?
Yes. Yeah, our meeting is pretty much at the end of the month.
7:30.
Okay, town board comments?
Yes. First, I wanted to thank the guys from the fire department for coming out last night and taking care of the fire across the street from our house. As always, they were just fantastic. They took care of the problem and made sure that everybody was safe. It was an electrical fire, so there were additional risks there at being on one of the on the telephone pole. It was a little bit nerve-wracking for me, but not once they showed up. So I wanted to say thank you. Regarding the local law that was passed tonight, I just wanted to say that at the last meeting, people were deriding me and saying I was splitting hairs. But first, I thought we should be getting better work from our lawyer when it comes to grammatical and punctuation errors in our town laws. If you tolerate it, that's what you'll get. Secondly, and most importantly, the law was non-ADA compliant, and it would have opened us up to an ADA lawsuit. For those of you who don't know, the ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act. There's no loop bus or dial-a-ride service at night, and most of the classes are only offered at night. And the law, as it was originally written, only allowed for mileage reimbursement. The law as submitted at the last board meeting would have excluded citizens with disabilities who can't drive. Vicki picked up on what I said, and that section was changed to add the word transportation as opposed to mileage. That one word will help keep this town from discriminating against those with disabilities. The substitution of that one word mileage from transportation. Some people may call this splitting hairs, but in this case it keeps us from getting sued and it keeps us from discriminating. I still think the law is sloppily written and it shouldn't have been adopted, and that's why I voted no. And thank you, that's all I have for comment.
Any other town board comments?
The water fountain is on. Thank you, John Locurdo, for finding the electrical problem that was solved. Apparently it's done and fixed. It was part of the accident on Route 22, and that was
You
the
were so
cause.
right.
Oh, no, we thought that we hadn't paid the electricity bill. But Victoria assured us that we did pay our electricity bill. There was some other issue for the reason why the electricity wasn't on for Memorial Day ceremony. We'll look at the peace poll afterwards, if you all can stay a minute afterwards. The dance program has received a $1,200 grant from the Office of Children and Family Services. That's up from $470, so it was a competitive grant for the first time this year, so we were rewarded with a more appropriate number rather than based on our per capita population. It's a formula, and that's how we got our $400 every year. We also got $2,000 from Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation's Northeast Duchess Fund and a $250 gift from a private citizen. So we're at $3,450 raised from grant agencies and private individuals. So we're very excited, and by July, we hope to have, like July 1st of August, audition/registration for the kids who are interested in participating in the fall. And it will roughly follow the same schedule that we have in the past. It'll be for 3 months. Heather Holohan will be the instructor, and it'll be performing arts and dance. And it will be a medley of musical medley. So it'll stress performing arts in a broader spectrum, and the final performance will also be at our Holiday of Lights. So that's the rough outline. It will continue to be a free program.
Vicki, Does the extra money that we got in the competitive grant allow us enough money to get the curtain, or we're
No, the
still?
curtain is not a part of that financial. I have one more option, I think, from New York State Council on the Arts, the
Is that for
Dutchess
the
County,
backup?
for the back curtain that would help deaden the live.
They're going to, they're currently painting the auditorium, and they're going to paint the back wall black.
Okay, I think part of the problem that Heather had in the past with tapping and vocals, and I've also experienced it with the talent show, is that when kids sing, there's a huge echo. It's great. You don't need microphones, really, but because there's so much...
it's too live.
I don't know the language to use. However, we need sound deadening. And a curtain on the back wall, Heather assures me, other theaters have that, and it would go across the back wall and allow people to cross back behind the stage without being seen and act as a sound deadening. And when they tap, that sound doesn't just reverberate all over the walls. So
Well,
that's
some of
what
the-
she requested.
Right, some of the things that, I was talking to Pedro the other day, we were in the auditorium. They're going to be putting these on the side walls. They're sound deadening panels.
Mm-hmm.
They're 2x2.
That will help.
And they're going to put them all the way through on both sides.
Wow. At
So-
their own expense.
At their own expense for the town, because they've already repaired the leak and the gutter problem we have. They're currently, doing the bathrooms over, and the bathrooms are being painted, so the bathrooms will be working. And they're painting the rest of the spots where there was water damage in the auditorium.
That's wonderful. I think this is all really good. I'll continue to look for additional funding for the curtain that would help with logistics and further sound deadening. Believe me, we can't have too much. It's just too.
Have you found a place where we could order one, or?
Yeah, there's some options that I found on the internet, and fire retardant is expensive but required. So I'm trying to find used stuff off of the internet, but it's harder to figure out how much it's really going to cost. So
Okay.
I'm imagining it's going to be at least $1,000, especially hung. Then, did anybody want to talk about Jenny Hensel's free lunches during the summer?
Yeah, you can go ahead. I had it in my list of things to do, but as long as you have it, why don't you go ahead and do it?
Okay, so Jenny Hansel from the Northeast Community Center's staff, she's the head of it. She has announced that there will be free meals for every child or teenager can have a free lunch starting June 30th for a 6-week program. It runs through August 8th. And last year they served 3,200 such meals at the town camps, the summer children's camps in Millerton and Amenia. There are going to now be 6 sites throughout Wassaic, Amenia, and Millerton to make sure every child and infant through teen who wants or needs breakfast or lunch, they can have that, and it'll contain at least 25% locally sourced milk, fruits, or vegetables, including items from local farms and their community garden. And it starts June 30th. What you need to do to sign up for a slot is to click on a link on the internet. It's www.signupgenius, Genius, signupgenius, all one word, .com /go. Oh, yeah, it's quite a lot. We'll get it on the internet, and we'll get it on our town website on Channel 22. But it will be serving at the Wassaic Project Mondays through Thursdays, 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. At the Amenia Town Hall, Monday through Friday, 11:45 to 12:30 p.m. And the Northeast Millerton Library, Monday through Friday, 11:30 to 12:30 p.m. All 3 of these sites need volunteers. So if you're interested in helping Jenny, please contact her at Northeast Community Center.
Yeah, Gretchen is going to put it on the website, so it'll
Oh,
be on
thank
the
you.
website.
Okay. And then I just was going to say that I attended a 10-mile watershed forum with Marty Grossman, Sharon Kroger, Dave Reagan at Weathersfield last Saturday, and it was about dealing with flooding and water quality issues in the Harlem Valley corridor, Pauling to Northeast. And we will be following up with that. I think, Victoria, you've been invited to a meeting with Dover's, or will be invited to a meeting with Dover's supervisor as well to talk about formalizing some of our thoughts
Yeah, I ran
between
into
our two.
Katie Palmer House, and she mentioned that to me.
Okay.
Any other comments?
That's it for me.
That's it. I wanted to remind everybody, this Saturday is the Strawberry Fair. It's finally here. Saturday, June 14th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. with a bake sale, restaurant raffle, vendors, silent auction, lunch, games, petting zoo, music, and their famous strawberry ice cream sundaes. In addition, on Saturday, the Amenia Library will be having their book, bake, and plant sale. Kenny Walsh will be signing his book entitled The Depot Hill Gang on the Amenia Library lawn. Town of Amenia Annual Senior Chicken Barbecue for people age 55 and older is August 9th at 11:30 a.m. at the Wasatch Firehouse. Call Orpha Thomas for reservations by July 24th. We have a limit of 140 people. Her number is 845-877-0492. Frankie spoke about the senior bus trip to Best Western Inn at Hunt's Landing. That's July 9th at 2014. $34 a person. Check her money order by July 1st made out to Town of Amenia. The bus is sponsored by Amenia Recreation. In addition, there are several summer programs at the Wasatch Project. They have what they call Last Saturdays. On June 28th, they have featured artist projects. July 26th, an indie feature film premiere. August 30th, short film selection. September 27th, Sandwich Club Summit, and October 25th, Haunted House and Halloween festivities. They have several art making workshops for children, and their summer festival is August 1st through 3rd. We have cards in the as you come into the door, so you can pick one up and keep track of all these wonderful events. In the Millerton News, there was Discover Amenia in New York, and we have several of these and that you could pick up right outside the door here if you'd like one for yourself or several, and or right inside as you come into the door of the town hall. So come on down and help yourself. We also have the Southern Berkshire Amateur Radio Club on June 28th and 29th for their annual field day. They usually have it at the pavilion at the Amenia Fire Department between 2 p.m. on Saturday and 10 a.m. on Sunday. This is their national field day event for amateur radio. And that's all I have. Okay, I'd like to
Victoria, could I take a moment?
Yes.
I do have a comment I would like to make.
Okay.
After I left the town board meeting on May 22nd, which was done simply to conserve attorney time for the town, the following week I had occasion to watch YouTube for the end of the meeting. And a comment was made that I found rather disturbing by Councilwoman Hitzelberger to the effect that she had been attempting to reach me for a period of 2 weeks regarding the local law that was going to be addressed. And I have responded separately to the board. During that 2-week period of time, there were 15 emails exchanged between me and Councilwoman Hitzelberger. There were several telephone calls that I made to her, and there was 35-minute telephone conversation that I had with her. I think that the comment that she was trying to reach me during that 2-week period is inaccurate. I've given my written explanation to the board. I certainly am not in the habit of ignoring a client's inquiries on something as serious as a local law. And this comment was made in a public forum, namely the town board meeting, and I think it certainly gives a negative impression in the minds of the town taxpayers as to the services that I'm rendering. I feel very privileged to be representing this board. I take my professional responsibility seriously, and I think it is unfair when a statement is made that is totally inaccurate, that is going to reflect detrimentally on my professional reputation, which is an essential part of my professional practice. As far as my writing abilities in respect to the local law, I assure this board that I have written many appeals to the appellate divisions of New York State in both the second and third departments. I have argued those cases very successfully before both courts, and I've always been commended on my writing abilities. So I would like this board and the Amenia public to know that I take this job seriously. I intend to give my full efforts to doing a good job, and I guess that's it.
I would also say that I appreciate Denise Fitzpatrick's not charging us for the extra cost that it took to document that in fact she had responded numerous times, and that charge did not go to the town taxpayers, and that she also, when we asked her to bring herself up to speed with our comprehensive plan, she was willing to do all that work for nothing. So she believes in our town and wants to understand its underlying. You know, when we interviewed her, she said she was interested in doing a very, very good job for the town, and that she wouldn't take this job if she weren't fully familiar with it, unlike our other attorneys who have actually charged us for the cost of bringing themselves up to speed with our town laws. So I appreciate from the start her attitude towards giving us very good quality work at a rate that is much less than what we've been paying our previous attorneys. So I appreciate what she's done to help make that happen.
And I would like to say that my comments were not inaccurate. The majority of the emails were attempting to schedule a time to speak with the lawyer, and not the content of what was wanting to be discussed. As for Ms. Fitzpatrick's writing abilities, having read several of her submissions, I guess, to the courts prior to her being employed here, one of the reasons that I wanted her to be our lawyer was because of her writing skills, and I look forward to having those skills used here in Amenia.
And they have been.
Well, I'm going to weigh in. I think you're doing a great job.
I think the board should also be aware that in regard to the provisions of the Americans with Disabilities Act, there currently, and prior to this board passing the local law, there are sections 267 and 271 of the town law that already pertain to training requirements for ZBA and planning board members. There is nothing in the state law which the legislature deemed appropriate to pass that specifically references the ADA. Both the state law and the local law that this town has passed addresses various formats for the members to obtain their training. It can be done electronically and by various other means online. And I think the state certainly did that so it could accommodate people with disabilities, and the town, in like fashion, did the same thing. And the town even added the reimbursement, which is not in the current state law, for reasonable costs of the seminars or programs, as well as the travel expenses.
Thank you.
Make a motion to move to executive session.
I'll second that. And for, what was the reason?
For pending litigation. We'll be doing the planning board room. We'll be doing a conference call.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.